Let me just check my notes here because I don't want to miss out on anything important. Hi, I'm Catherine Goshen, a professional astrologer from the village of Nyack in New York State, and I'm passionate about in-depth astrology and getting to the heart of the matter. In this video, I'd like to talk about the upcoming solar eclipse, which will take place on Sunday, June 21st, 2020 at 2:41 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And I want to look at why this is an important eclipse for us as individuals, but also on a national level. And we all know that there is so much change going on this year, that 2020 is an enormously important year in the history of the collective. And we really don't need astrology to tell us that. We're experiencing it now. However, what I find so fascinating as an astrologer who works with people on a daily basis consulting, but is also interested in the astrology of world events, we see how beautifully astrology is mirroring what is going on in the world today. So whenever we talk about astrology, we need to keep this correspondence idea alive, as above, so below. I want to ask you that as you're listening to this video, to remember that the energy of the eclipse is already in place. We are already feeling the effects of it. And the energy of the eclipse will continue for months after the eclipse has happened. So bear that in mind. For example, in the USA, the energy of the eclipse will continue post-election. A solar eclipse always takes place at the new moon. The sun is eclipsed when the new moon happens, which is when the sun and the moon are together in the sky. And this solar eclipse will be on the 21st of June, 2020, and it will take place 8 or 9 hours after the summer solstice here in the Northern Hemisphere. Now we know a lot about the summer solstice. It is something that we celebrate here as the longest day of the year and the shortest night. And that solstice always takes place when the sun moves into 0 degrees of Cancer. And this is in the tropical zodiac. So 0 degrees of Cancer is a very important point in the zodiac. And when the sun is at this particular point, it is at its maximum strength in the Northern Hemisphere and at its minimum strength in the Southern Hemisphere. Now think for a moment about the solstice. This holiday or holy day is one of the oldest celebrations known to humanity. Long before organized Christianity, people were coming together in tribes, in groups, and celebrating on this day. Fertility rites took place. There was a real connection between the sun, which is our life-giving force, and the nourishment that we take from it, and the relationship that we have between our earth, ourselves, and the sun. Young maidens would make garlands of marigolds, golden calendula, St. John's wort, all those flowers that represent the golden light of the sun, wear them in their hair and dance. Everything was symbolically tied to the vitality and essence of the sun. So now let's think about an eclipse of the sun taking place 7 or 8 hours after the solstice. This eclipse will be an annular eclipse, so the moon will be in front of the sun and just a ring of light will be seen. But there is something about the energy of the sun's light which is blocked. And then after the eclipse, something is released. Traditionally, astrologers use the solstice chart to see how governments and world leaders will fare in the next 3 to 6 months. So let's get back to a more rooted level about where the eclipse will take place and how it will manifest on a very physical level. The eclipse will not be seen from North America. It will be visible from parts of Central Africa, such as Zaire and Ethiopia. And then the eclipse will travel through Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, India, China, and it will curve off into the ocean past Hong Kong and the Philippines. So immediately we know that after the eclipse, and even now, we will see a lot of activity in those areas where the eclipse was visible. The second thing that astrologers use very strongly is the degree of the eclipse as they track it through time after the eclipse, wanting to see when other planets or points activate that very sensitized degree of the zodiac. So on June 28th to 29th, the Mars will be moving into Aries and will be activating that 0 degrees of Cancer. And on August 8th, Venus will be moving into Cancer, and she will also activate that sensitive eclipse degree. When India and Pakistan were formed in 1947, they have Mars at 0 degrees of Cancer in their charts, in their nation charts. So they will be particularly sensitized by this eclipse. And there are other indicators which show that China also will be particularly sensitized or energized by this upcoming eclipse. This eclipse links also to a previous solar eclipse we had on December 26, 2019, which was at 4 degrees of Capricorn. And, we know that that 0 degrees of Cancer to 0 degrees of Capricorn zone is known as the world axis. And when things take place there, they tend to come forward and have global effects. So the eclipse of December 26th took place at 4 degrees of Capricorn. And this was when the coronavirus was officially discovered in Wuhan and made public by the Chinese health authorities. So once again, we see that those 2 eclipses, December and late June, there's a kind of a bracketing effect, and the coronavirus is definitely involved with that. Now, I'd like to say something about the sign of Cancer, which is where the eclipse is taking place, because Cancer represents our security, our emotional security, which can come from the very basic things such as food, shelter, having our own place, and also emotional security, feeling securely attached. Now think about the fact that Cancer rules the moon, and the moon is eclipsing the sun. So what are we asked to let go of at this time? It seems to me, and many of my clients are already experiencing this, that something in us that is calling for, and there's something in us that is calling for a new kind of security, a security that is not necessarily so based on material things or emotional things, but that we have this ability to detach a little bit from the moon and from mother and all these things that are keeping us very trapped in the past and preventing us from moving towards a new vision for ourselves and for the world. So I think a lot will be brought to light after this eclipse. And if you are suffering at this moment, suffering in very genuine need for increased financial security and stability, or suffering on an even deeper level where there is a lot of conflict in your personal relationships, be at peace, because a lot of stuff is coming up to be cleared, and we are all in the same boat. We are all having to suffer this increased friction in our lives in order to clear it up and release it. So much inner work to be done at this time. Something else that we may wish to ponder on is to think deeply about what we really desire at this time, and then to see whether if this is really what we need. So I think that's enough in-depth astrology for today. And I'm thinking of making a few videos on natal astrology, several aspects of natal astrology. Let me know if there's something that you're particularly interested in, a configuration that you'd like me to speak about. Take it easy, water your plants, look after yourself, and water your inner garden.